Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. It's a chilly morning here in the Ozarks, about 16 degrees or so right now. But we're supposed to have a warm up. So this was, last night was the last of the cold nights for a little while. Be back up in the mid 40s, maybe upper 40s today. And a few nights ahead, maybe even not even hitting freezing at night. So it'll feel, and then next week we're talking back up in the 50s, so we'll be running around in t-shirt and shorts again around here. So anyways, that's your weather update for all those of you that do not care about it. So there's some, well, number one, when we're talking about Venezuela, I've been mentioning that quite a bit lately. The United States, the State Department has issued a travel warning, telling U.S. citizens to not travel there, and those that are in Venezuela, they need to leave. So, things are heating up there still. That's, the president has kept saying that it's going to be soon, but he's also said a lot of other things that end up never happening. So, this is not a guarantee, right? And then the whole terrorist thing, remember the D.C. attack a week ago or so? Strangely enough, I don't know, I'm a little suspicious of this. Maybe I wear my tinfoil hat a little too tight. But all of a sudden now, I believe we're at 3, maybe 4, that's been in the news that the FBI have found Afghan nationals that had plots to do some type of terrorist attack. A couple of things are strange. Number one, it's not really getting like big news. And number two, it's strange that all of a sudden now this is happening, right? They weren't finding these people out beforehand. It's almost like this DC shooting of National Guard troops. It's like all of a sudden, oh, wait a minute, we should probably be paying attention to these people. And the FBI just all of a sudden starts doing their job. I just find it a little strange that right after that, there's been 3 or 4 plots to either bomb something or shoot something that's been uncovered by the FBI that was being orchestrated by Afghan nationals all of a sudden. And so, are they trying to push that narrative to, instill fear, to distract? Is it because, we're going to try to come up with an excuse to go back into Afghanistan, which has been talked about. The president has talked about that, of reopening up, retaking our base in Afghanistan that, was abandoned and everything. So who knows? We just gotta feed that hungry military-industrial complex one way or the other, whether it's in, Ukraine or Venezuela or Afghanistan or somewhere. Speaking of Ukraine, and that's kind of the big topic, I think, this morning. There's been several things going on. I haven't reported yet because I was just kind of letting it play out and see what's going on. So apparently a few days ago, the top NATO leaders had a meeting with Zelensky. And there's been a few reports of kind of the dialogue of what happened, at least at some point in that meeting. And the heads of pretty much all the European NATO countries, like Germany and France and several others, were talking to Zelensky saying, hey, we have intel, and our belief is that the United States is going to stab you in the back with this peace deal, because, they're still working on this peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. They've met down in Florida and other places, but it's still looking like the United States is favoring Russia in all of this. And so anyways, these European leaders have stated that, hey, we really think that the United States is trying to stab you in the back, that they're going to side with Russia, that they're going to try to give up a bunch of your land to Russia. And, it could be true, because it does, at least on the surface, look like that. It also could be just NATO. They're very serious. So here's, as a side note, let's just for pause for a moment as a side note. Either NATO really does know something that we here in America are not being told about Russian plans, or NATO is just bloodthirsty, hungry for war or something, because they are solidly convinced, European NATO countries are solidly convinced that Russia is planning on invading them. It has become quite clear. This is not just, and there is some evidence of that. So anyways, back to the story. So they're telling Zelensky, hey, you cannot trust the United States. They're going to stab you in the back. You know, we've got to go this alone. The last couple of days, NATO's announced that they're pledging to spend at least $1 billion a month or more for the next couple of years, somewhere in the neighborhood. You know, I've seen numbers anywhere between $50 to $150 billion is what they're pledging to spend to defend Ukraine against Russia. The United States has said, hey, you guys need to step up. If NATO does not step up, if European NATO doesn't step up and kind of take over the security measures of all of this, then we're going to back out of certain deals. We're going to walk away from certain agreements that's in NATO, that the United States provides X amount of security. And of course, this argument goes back quite a while. Even during Trump's first presidency, he was, very big on talking about how NATO doesn't pay their fair share. The rest of NATO doesn't pay their fair share. That the bulk of the security of NATO, the military of NATO, is American, which is true. But here's the big one. So NATO has now said to the United States, listen, we hold $2.9 trillion of your debt. NATO does. We hold $2.9 trillion of your debt. And if you walk away, if you do not uphold your end of the bargain with NATO and with Ukraine, if you try to screw Ukraine over by giving it away to Russia, we will dump overnight $2.9 trillion in U.S. debt. And the belief is from economists that if that were to happen, we would go through something somewhere between the 2008 financial crash and the 1930s Great Depression. That it would be somewhere in that neighborhood between those two. That it would be devastating for our economy. So they've upped the ante. It's a serious, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, because regardless of what you think of the president, it's quite clear that he does not handle threats very well. You threaten him, you try to put him in a corner, the things that, will happen, or who knows, he doesn't handle it well. So this is going on now. Now, from a military perspective, American news doesn't really has kind of stopped covering, because there's all this other stuff, all these other distractions, and maybe that's what the point is. But there's all these other distractions away from what's going on over there, and things have been just continually escalating. Ukraine has been launching drones deeper and deeper inside of Russia. Zelensky, just in the last couple of days, I think went to Ireland. It was Ireland he went to. And there were suspicious drone activity around that area. There was a suspicion that it's Russian drones. There's still been drones and balloons and things like that flying around military installations of NATO. And the belief is that that's Russian, that it's Russia that's doing this. And the belief in NATO is that Russia is conducting some pretty high level kind of espionage, infiltration into certain NATO areas, that, whether it be cyber attacks and other type of infrastructure attacks. So the point is that this is heating up, and NATO, I don't know, and I want to make it clear, I'm not defending NATO, I'm not, excuse me, I'm not on their side or anything like that, and I know that the average American, my average listener, is going to say, let them, it's NATO. They don't have the military that the United States does. They don't. Yes, you're correct. But when you put NATO together, even without the United States, those countries can come up with a pretty decent sized military, and they have been in the last 12 months. At least the news reporting is that countries like Poland and Germany and France have been just dramatically building their military powers and stuff. So they do seem to be taking it serious and working on it. And if they're to the point that they're actually making threats of dumping $2.9 trillion in debt, like no country has even threatened that. China owns a bunch of U.S. debt, and all the trade wars and the tariff war stuff that's been going on. At no point has China threatened to dump U.S. debt. There's other countries, may not have as much, but there's that's a lot of countries own U.S. debt, and I'm not aware of any of them that has made a threat. Hey, if you don't play ball with us, we're going to dump your debt and cause your economy to crash. This is serious. It's kind of like, NATO is trying to take the United States by the cojones, and it will be interesting to see how Trump in the United States reacts to that. Will they back down, or will Trump come out swinging? Again, it doesn't look like the news is, at least so far, has really latched onto this story much. It's out there, but it's not, getting a lot of trending play. But it'll be interesting to see how this goes, because I think this could potentially be very serious. If NATO, if they're serious enough to make that kind of threat, they must be pretty serious. So, anyways, you need to be, getting your houses in order and all that kind of stuff. And if this were to happen, economically, it would be very devastating to our economy. I'm not saying everything would crash into no existence. I'm just saying it would be very hard. It'd be basically, imagine the Fed overnight printing $2.9 trillion. What it would do to the value of the dollar, inflation, and all that. That's kind of what it would be. So definitely be getting ready for all the things that's going on, because there's stuff happening. It's pretty big. All right, get your houses in order. Prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.